on today's Story Beat.
The biggest thing is not to compare and despair. We are all on our own specific paths and journeys. You know, one person's success doesn't take away from your success. It's an infinite pie. If I see someone post something and I feel that feeling of like, oh, how did that not happen for me? I just remind myself, well, if it can happen for them, it can happen for me. And that means I'm that much closer because it did. The only way to really get through this is by having a mindset like that.
This is StoryBeat with Steve Cuden, a podcast for the creative mind. StoryBeat explores how masters of creativity develop and produce brilliant works that people everywhere love and admire. So join us as we discover how talented creators find success in the worlds of imagination and entertainment. Here now is your host, Steve Cuden.
Thanks for joining us on StoryBeat. We're coming to you from the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My guest today, Natalie Lander, was inspired to become an actress by watching her dad, David L. Lander, who was best known for playing Squiggy on Laverne Shirley. Natalie has built a resume that includes a wide range of credits as both a performer and creator. On camera, Natalie has had recurring guest star roles on The Middle, Lopez, and Major Crimes. Other guest starring credits include Grey's Anatomy, Étoile, 13 Reasons Why, 911 Lone Star, Castle, Hannah Montana, and more. She voiced Goldie on Disney Junior's Goldie Bear and Stargirl in DC's Justice League franchise. She also voiced roles in prominent video games such as Saints Row, Final Fantasy, God of War, and Fire Emblem. If you were a fan of the MTV competition show Legally Blonde, The Search for Elle Woods, you may remember Natalie, who placed 5th in her effort to play Elle Woods on Broadway. She later wrote a one-woman show about that experience, Legally Brunette, The Search for Myself, which has had both West Coast and East Coast premieres. Most recently, Natalie completed a run of her new show, Earth to Squiggy, at the Gary Marshall Theater in Burbank, California, which she co-wrote and which is set to the music of her father and Michael McKean, who played Lenny on Laverne and Shirley. For the record, I've known Natalie for a couple of decades, from when she sang on a demo of a song I wrote and produced with the composer Rachel Lawrence called Nothing Gets Me Down. As a bonus, we're going to play Nothing Gets Me Down for you at the end of this episode. So if you'd like to hear Natalie singing a song written by yours truly, stick around after we chat. So for all those reasons and many more, I'm truly delighted to welcome to StoryBeat the actress, singer, and writer Natalie Lander. Nat, welcome to the show.
Hi, Steve. It's so good to see you. This is so much fun. We have to do this sooner than every 20 decades, whatever it is.
20 decades, we will be very old at that point.
I know.
All right, so let's go back in time just a tiny bit. Tell us a bit of your actual history. The first time that I saw you, you were singing at a wedding when you were just a teenager. How old were you at that time? Do you remember?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I think I was 12 or 13 years old, and that was probably my first onstage trauma I experienced.
Because there was a guy playing the piano or the organ or whatever it was, and he just wasn't in sync with you.
He was, I think he was minimum 102 years old, probably fully blind. And, I was asked to sing the song When a Man Loves a Woman, which is obviously every 12-year-old girl's dream song to sing. And I remember getting up there and starting the song, and he, Uncle Leo got off, and the next thing I know, we're like out of sync, and I'm 12, so I don't know how to recalibrate at that point. And instead I just start sobbing on stage as the bride is coming down the aisle, and and I'm like, when a man loves a woman. But everyone thought I was just really moved by it being a beautiful wedding. So, fake it till you make it.
What I remember is your voice. I remember your extraordinary voice, especially at that age, incredible. But that couldn't have been your first time being on stage. That had to have been somewhere down the road. When did you first get the bug to be in the biz?
Well, goodness. I mean, I think I came out of the womb with the bug for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
always loved an audience. My parents told me that I used to put on, for lack of a better term, strip teases in the living room. And I also used to direct my parents how to behave as audience members. So I would tell them like, oh, when you're watching me, you have to say, oh, she's so good. Oh, look at her. So I really did love an audience as a kid. And then I kind of got a little shy after being 3 and, my debut as a 3-year-old burlesque dancer. And I really started to get interested in theater when I was about 11 years old, when we moved to a new city and I went to a new middle school and wanted to make friends. And I always loved singing. And so my parents put me into a youth theater kids camp that was an after school camp. And that's where I really started performing, and I absolutely loved it. It was the best.
Well, you clearly come from a major showbiz legacy. Your family is all over the place in the business. So just for the listeners, so they know, aside from your dad, who I'll talk to you about in a second, your grandfather was Freddie Fields, who was a very well-known and highly legendary agent and producer in Hollywood. And he obviously had to have had some influence over you. And we'll talk about that in 2 seconds. One of your grandmothers was the Tony and Emmy-nominated actress Polly Bergen. One of your other grandmothers was a child star named Edith Fellows, who was in dozens of movies. And your mom, Kathy, was also an actress at a point in her life. I'm just curious, how did all that influence you? What did you learn from these people?
Well, I think what I learned was that, to me, the only option was to be in the entertainment business,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think I grew up just so familiar with it that I didn't really ever think like I would do anything else. It was sort of like, oh, I'm going to go into the family business, which is, if we were plumbers, I'd probably be a plumber right now.
But nobody ever said to you, you must do that. This is of your own choice, right?
Definitely of my own choice. In fact, my parents were very against sounds really like harsh. Cautious about child actors and how, what that lifestyle is, not only for the child, but for the parents who have to, be on set with their kid every single day. And so they really wanted to make sure that I got a proper education as a child and also enough creative outlets to sort of satiate that feeling of wanting to be a performer. But I knew at a very young age that I was going to do it, but I had to kind of wait until I was of age to do it on a professional level.
But you were already thinking about it, and you were also, I assume, immersed in it just by being in your family.
Oh, yeah. There was a time where I threatened emancipation. I was a little dramatic. Why? I really hated middle school, and I was like, I just don't want to go. Please let me be a kid actor and let me be on a Nickelodeon show. And if you don't, I'm going to emancipate myself. And my parents were like, okay, go to school. All
right. So we mentioned your dad at the top of the your intro, and I'm just curious, what did he teach you along the way? He certainly must have said things to you about the business and how to perform and how to be on a set and all those things. What did he teach you, that the things that have held you in good stead over all these years?
Well, I think one of the things he really instilled in me was a work ethic, but really because he didn't really have one when he was younger. He was obviously so talented and gifted in like a way that you don't really see very frequently. He would be the first one to admit that he could be difficult at times. And he would always share his stories with me and, jokingly say, well, don't be like me, don't throw a script at a writer if you don't like it, but I think I really learned work ethic from him because he would share the stories of the good, the bad, and the ugly so that I knew what I was getting myself into, which was really important.
Well, the business itself, I was in it for a long time out in Hollywood, still am here where I am in Pittsburgh, but you've been in it more or less your whole life. It's not for the faint of heart. You really have to have a thick skin, don't you?
Yeah, I think you have to be a little bit of a masochist to want to do it,
For sure.
It's hard. It really is hard. And, I think every time I think, oh, I've, sort of reached a new level in the video game of this career, I realize like there's another level I have to pass and collect a bunch of trinkets to make it to the next level. It's hard.
And you never stop having to earn those credits, I don't think.
No, it really is a hustle at every level.
And so far up till now, and hopefully for the foreseeable future, that's something you want to do. It's something you're passionate about.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think even in the hardest times, what I do brings me so much joy. I could never imagine changing. I mean, maybe it looks a little different and as I've gotten older, I think my perception of what I believe success is also really different as I've gotten older. But I've never had that moment where I'm going, I'm going to just give this all up and do something non-creative. I think being creative really fuels me, and it might be different as we go on and I might find new creative outlets, but I think I'll always remain in the creative field in some way, shape, or form.
Well, you've already said it, so there it is. You will always be creative in some way, whether you're on camera, behind camera, or doing something completely different that just requires creative thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think to yourself that you have a methodology or a technique about thinking about being creative? Do you ever dwell on that?
I mean, you mean like as a creative process or...
Well, you're a creative person in many different ways, and we're going to talk more about that in detail. You're a creative person as an actress. You're a creative person as a singer. You're a creative person as a writer and a performer. And so you're in different multiple levels of creativity. Do you think to yourself, I must be creative. I'm going to think creatively, or is it just come naturally to you?
No, I think it comes naturally, but not in a way where I'm like, it comes so naturally to me. But it's like, sometimes you
have to work at it a little bit, right?
There will be a spark of an idea, and then I'm like, oh, is that something fun to play around with? And then the next thing I know, I can't get my mind off of it. And the next thing I know, it's something that comes to fruition again.
And you're in development on something, even though nobody's paying you.
Constantly.
Well, that's the business, isn't it? You're very frequently... You've written most everything you've written, I assume, on spec. Nobody has hired you to write the things you've written.
Correct. There was one thing that actually, a digital series my husband and I got hired to write, which was really fun. And we got paid, peanuts. But it was very fun to write something and be given a budget to make it as well. So we got to write it and produce it together.
Do you think that the fact that you grew up in Los Angeles and around lots of people who were working in the industry, do you think that helped you in a way to understand how it worked more than somebody, say, who came from out of state and is trying to figure out Los Angeles in their mid-20s? You had a pretty good idea of things about the way it worked as you were growing up, don't you think?
Definitely. I think sometimes I wonder like, oh, if I, because sometimes I had a really realistic view of how it works. My dad was diagnosed with MS when I was 18 months. And
wow.
Yeah. And, I really watched him and his career go through a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs. And so it's like, I really knew at a very young age that nothing was guaranteed, which sometimes that sort of, plucky optimism of I just moved here from nowhere and I have stars in my eyes. Like sometimes I wonder, like, I wish I had that and maybe not so much reality of it going, well, it's like it's not guaranteed and you have to pay your dues. And, so I wonder sometimes if maybe I knew a little too much going in.
Do you think it's hurt you?
I don't think so. I think it just gives me a different perspective of how I've navigated this career. But then there's so many advantages of being in a family that's in the showbiz industry, of like so much knowledge that I gained just by being around it. So the learning curve was different. It's like I also had entree into a lot of different things. Like, I won't say I'm like a full Nepo baby because my dad didn't quite like, wasn't like, I wasn't a Nepo baby when Nepo babies were cool. Like it was kind of like not cool to be a Nepo baby, you know? Now I'm like, oh, it's cool to be a Nepo baby. But
Is it cool now? I didn't realize it
I
was.
mean, I feel like now it's like, you know, you look at Judd Apatow's daughters and they're like big stars, and you know, it does help where they're like, oh, that's someone's kin, next of kin or whatnot, and it does, I think, help people. I think you still have to have the talent to back it up, but
But what I've admired about you all along is you work your ass off at it. It's not something that you just take for granted. You really work it.
yeah, no, nothing was handed to me in any way, shape, or form. I feel like, you know, I started from the bottom and worked my way. Well, I'm not at the top, but worked my way to the, you know, middle bottom.
You've had a career so far that I hope continues for you. It's you've definitely worked, you've made money and all those good things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And now it's just the bonus that when people find out who my dad is, it's like a bonus. They're like, wait, oh my God, that was your dad. And that's really fun for me because, you know, they hire me because I'm of me, and then they find out who my dad was, and then they're like so excited by that. And that's really special.
Well, I'm sure it is because I'm certain you're not going into auditions and saying, "Hey, everybody, this is who I am." You're going in and auditioning.
Right. Exactly. So they don't know.
So you're not throwing your weight around.
No. And they're not like, oh, Lander. It's not like my last name is Clooney, you know?
Exactly. And in fact, there are other Landers in the business who are, you know, they've all worked. Audrey Lander, I'm thinking of in particular. But that's not, you're not going into auditions with anyone unless they already know in advance of your family history. So where did you get your training? You are trained. I know you have both acting and vocal training. Where did you get your training?
So I started, like, when I was a kid, I started taking private voice lessons very young. And then when I went to college, I went to Pepperdine and I was a theater major. And there, I feel like I got a lot of training there because the wonderful thing was that theater department was so small. I got to do like 14 shows while I was a student in college. And I think that was really a good place to train. And then after that, you know, I've taken classes in LA. Like, I have my go-to class that I love currently, taught by this wonderful casting director named G. Charles Wright. And he's just amazing and builds a really wonderful community of working actors. But, you know, I've never done like the RADA summer program or anything like that. I find that actually where I really figure out who I am as a performer is when I'm performing. There was a space in LA called the Rockwell Table and Stage, which was a little bar restaurant that did these musical parodies. And it was really there that I found out that I was very good at character work and improv. And I found like a whole new version of myself as a comedy performer at this place. And it really was, you know, kind of like learning as you go and also being inspired by the other people that I was working with.
Did you know as a kid that you were funny?
I knew that I was yes. I mean, kinda. I really thought I was an ingenue.
I don't know why you wouldn't think that.
No, I really wish I had really figured out I was a character actor, like much younger. But I really thought I was an ingenue. But no, I remember the first time I felt funny was when I was 10. I knew I could work a room when I was 10 years old. I understood that concept for the first time when I was 10. I was at like this conference thing that my dad was brought out for, and it was like a big dinner with all these adults in Washington, D.C. And I don't know, I just started telling stories about, you know, the gross boys, and I had the whole table, you know, and on lockdown, and they like were laughing, and I just remember being like, oh, this is what being funny feels like, and this is so much fun.
You really got a taste for it at that moment. That's when it really bit you on being a comedian and light. Most of your stuff is not heavy drama.
No.
It's lighthearted.
Very lighthearted, yeah. I mean, even the dramas that I've been a part of, I'm always like the comedy part in it. I'm like, man.
What, do you want to be the dramatic leading lady?
I don't know. Sometimes it'd be fun, but again, I'm leaning into my character actress. phase.
So I think the listeners should pay attention to what Natalie's talking about right now. It's really important because she figured out early on, which many people don't, she figured out early on where her niche in the world of show business is. And that is in that lighter, entertaining, comedic take on things. And sometimes if you had decided, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm actually going to be a dramatic leading lady, you might have screwed yourself up because you didn't go into what your forte is.
Right. No, exactly. I think it was like I naturally found that I had a natural talent for comedy. Also, look, growing up with a dad who was a comedy icon,
Hilarious.
I definitely wanted to be like him. And so I always sort of dreamed of achieving his kind of success, which would be a sitcom. And yeah, that's kind of how I found my comedic voice. And even like when I was younger and doing roles, I actually I got cast in Bye Bye Birdie and I got cast as Rosie. And I was really upset because I wanted to play Mama.
Okay.
And my mom called the theater and was like, she really wants to play Mama. She does not want to play Rosie. And they were like, okay. So they switched the part. So I got to play, the 75-year-old Jewish New York mother to Bert.
At what age were you?
I was probably 13.
13, you wanted to play 70.
13, I wanted to play 70. Yeah.
I will tell you, I'm glad that didn't work out well for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was a hit in my little gray bob.
So where did you learn how to write, which is a totally different skill set?
Yeah. I don't know where that really came from. I think actually my husband used to be an actor. We met acting together, and then he went to USC for film school, and he now directs commercials and a lot of online marketing content for big companies and things like that. And I think it was really his encouragement of me as a writer. I wrote something really short and tiny, and he was like, this is really funny and really good. You should doing this. So I really started to write for the first time with him. And then over the years now I've moved on and I've written other things. And I guess now I should say I'm a writer, but
you've written stuff that you've performed. I mean, that's I think that's the pinnacle of what all great writers would like, although most writers are too shy to get on stage. So you're actually able to perform the things that you write. I think that's spectacular. But you don't have any formal training as a writer then?
No, I've never taken any writing class. I think for me, the way I write is just based off instinct. And I'm sure any writers listening to this will be like, oh my gosh, this woman. But yeah, I just kind of write based on instinct, where I think of the emotional arc of how I would feel in something and carry that through a story. And, it tends to kind of work. So that's been good. Nice.
Do you think your long time working as an actress has helped you as a writer? Do you think that you're able to get inside of a character's voice in a way that you can write it?
I think so. I think, look, I think not anyone can be a writer, but I think we have more intuition and skill than we realize. I mean, I think of how many scripts have I read in my lifetime, and how many movies have I seen, and how much TV have I watched. And, there is format of a script, with act 1 and act 2 and act 3. And I think if we can tap into sort of that natural progression of a story, it does, when we're watching it, it feels natural. So to me, it's when I'm writing it, I kind of just naturally go with that. But I know I would be really interested to take a writing class. I also have to say, I'm sort of leaving a big detail out. My husband, who went to USC Film School, he's very good at structure. So anytime I have a script, he's like, well, sometimes he'll read it and he'll be like, oh, I'm so mad. I'm like, what? He's like, you just naturally have the exact act 1 break in the right place and on the right page. I'm like, he's like, you don't even know. And how do you even do that? I'm like, I don't know. But he's really good at helping me structure things and figure that out. So I don't do it alone.
Well, the thing is that you have read so many scripts and you've been around so much of it that it's just sort of second nature to you. It's how you know that this is how we communicate in a story.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you sat down, was the first big thing that you wrote for yourself, was it Legally Brunette?
Yes. I mean, I think so. I mean, before that, I had written a pilot that I co-wrote that got produced by a digital company. And then I had done a show that I co-wrote with my husband for Awesomeness TV. But everything was more in short format. And so my one-woman show was kind of like my first entree, well, definitely into theater writing, a longer form of a show. But what's funny about that is while it was obviously scripted, it was actually written from my journal that I kept while I was on the show. So some of the actual writing in the show are my actual journal entries that I wrote.
That's the best way.
So I guess I was writing for a long time, whether I realized it or not,
You weren't writing in a formal sense. You were writing for yourself.
Yeah.
And so it seems to me that that's also a good way to get at it, as long as you do understand the structure and to have someone help you, like your husband. That's just a big bonus, because he understood. Here's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and here's how it works. There is a form to it, not a formula, a form, and you just naturally fell into it. And so, was that scary for you to write it and then perform it with no safety net of any other people?
Oh, totally. I mean, I think my biggest fear whenever I perform something that I write is that I have two fears. Nobody's going to show up and nobody's going to laugh at anything. I'm not worried about the lines. I'm not worried about singing. I'm not worried about the performance aspect. I'm just worried that nobody will laugh and no one will come. And those are my two.
Has that ever happened?
Not yet.
It's not going to happen. It is. I think that's everyone that's a performer's fear, is that no one will show up, no one will like them, no one will think that they're doing anything any decent, they're good, or So I think that's it's the same fear for the writer. Will anybody like what you've written?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and when people do, it's so nice when people like things.
Such a relief. I feel like once you do one out the gate, then you're like, okay, I can breathe now, and now I can have fun.
So when you did the show, did you need to have any kind of legal clearance for Legally Brunette?
Yes, technically, I did. And so therefore, unfortunately, I haven't been doing the show for that reason.
Oh.
I didn't get into actual trouble, but I did try to investigate what it would entail to retain the rights to, well, really it was because I used the clips to the MTV show in my show.
Could you do it without those clips?
I could, but there's something so funny and nostalgic about those clips. Like, it's kind of another character in the show, especially when you see, baby Natalie and I'm, crying on camera because of something that's like this very insignificant seeming now, but at the time it was so huge. So it is really fun to see my actual real life reactions captured. But yes, there could be a version, but I still have faith that like one day if I decide to do that show again, which I think I will at some point, that I'll be able to, have the resources to obtain the rights to the clips and do the show legitimately, freely.
That winds up being nothing more and nothing less than time and money. Lawyers and people obtaining rights for you, which is a pain in the neck. Sometimes you're going to be fortunate and sometimes you won't. But, I think that I don't know why anybody on their end would object. I'm assuming that I've not had the privilege of seeing it, but I'm assuming you're not nasty about them, are you?
No, I mean, I'm pretty honest about the realities of reality TV, but it's nothing that nobody doesn't know already about how reality TV works. And also, the character of Natalie in this show is really optimistic and really thinks only the best of everybody involved.
Well, so let's tell listeners then about what Earth to Squiggy is about.
Yeah, so Earth to Squiggy is a new musical rock comedy event. It is about Squiggy's daughter, Squigronica, and her best friend named Lenny. It's Lenny with an I. It's just a coincidence. Don't think about it. And they are performing the entire album of Lenny and the Squigtones, which is Squigronica's father's music and his best friend Lenny. And the twist is that Squigronica, everyone thinks that Squiggy has passed away, but Squigronica actually has gathered everyone together on this night to tell them that he's not dead. He was actually abducted by aliens and taken to Mars. And that tonight is a once-in-a-lifetime cosmic event that if they perform the Lenny and the Squigtones album, this communication portal will open and she will possibly be able to reunite with her dad on Mars.
And did you need to clear the rights for those songs?
I did. So thankfully, my dad and Michael own the rights to the characters and the music. That was something, because they created Lenny and Squiggy in college, that was something that they retained the rights to the characters when they started to write them on Laverne Shirley. And then, so they've had them for all these years, and it's really amazing and so lucky that, I can have access to that material.
Well, sure. I mean, it's a little bit inside baseball, but that's a great thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. They both went to school where I am in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Tech, I think, in those days, but now Carnegie Mellon University.
Yes. My dad is a huge Pittsburgh fan. He loves the Pirates.
I know. He always had a Pirates cap on. Yeah, oh, yeah.
And, they met at Carnegie Mellon. And then they transferred to NYU. And then my dad dropped out and moved to LA. And I think Michael graduated from one of them, but I don't know which one.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to write Earth to Squiggy?
Well, it's interesting. It's had two iterations. The first iteration we started writing it in March of 2025 and performed it in November of 2025. And then this new version of the show I started to rewrite in December of 2025 to March of 2026. So it's been about a full year in total developing this show.
And what are your plans for it? What would you like to see happen?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what's really wonderful is the feedback of the show has been great. And people particularly love the music. And it's so fun for me because a lot of people didn't even know they had an album. And people are like, what are these songs? They're so good. And where can I listen to them? And so it's really exciting because I feel like there's a whole new generation of people or not even generation, just people who loved Laverne Shirley and didn't even realize they had done this live album, discovering it for the first time. So that's really exciting. I mean, I think the dream would be to get a run somewhere, and maybe, New York would be obviously a wonderful place for it.
Or a tour, maybe.
Or a tour. What's really fun is I actually have physical paper copy of their tour schedule that they went on. And so it would be really cool to do their actual tour.
Did they tour in Milwaukee?
Yeah, I believe they toured in Milwaukee. They toured all over the U.S.
Well, I think that that's a great idea for you. I think you could actually book that.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, that'd be real fun. And if you do, I certainly hope you'll bring it right here to Pittsburgh so I can see it.
Well, I have to, because my dad would definitely be adamant that I bring it to
Absolutely.
Pittsburgh.
So when you were working on it, I must ask, was it emotional for you to work on it since it was your dad?
Definitely. I think part of it, it's interesting because, it's a project that is so much, dad coded and I think part of it is the reminder, that he's not here to actually see this. But the opposite is that I do feel like, doing deep dives into the album and even other work that he's done, it's really made me a fan of his in a very different way than I was always a fan, but now I appreciate his work on like an even grander scale, I think. And so it's been a really special way for me to actually connect with my dad, that even though he's not here, I feel so connected with him through writing the show and listening to the music and singing the songs. It's really, really special.
Well, that's really cool. I think that's, what a wonderful thing to do for that legacy for sure. Has Michael McKean had a chance to see it?
Yes, he came to the show the first round. He wasn't able to come the second time, but I really hope that he can come again soon.
Did he give you a stamp of approval, I hope?
He did. He did. He gave me, he really liked it. He didn't expect any of the Mars stuff. And then he was like, I was thinking these songs are really good. And then I realized, wait, I wrote them.
Well, he also went on, correct me if I'm wrong, he went on to write stuff for Spinal Tap and Spinal Tap 2, I assume.
Yeah, Spinal Tap. And he wrote a song in A Mighty Wind that he was nominated for an Oscar for, him and his wife, Annette O'Toole. So yeah, he's really talented musician.
Well, but both of them were extraordinarily talented. Your dad and Michael McKean were extraordinarily. I mean, they were a whole thing. I mean, that's so. Let's talk about your voiceover work for a moment, because you've done a bunch of that, and I'm fascinated because you may know that I wrote 90 cartoons.
Oh wait, I do remember this. What cartoons?
Oh gosh, 30 some odd different series. So I wrote Pink Panther, Beetlejuice. I wrote X-Men.
Right, I do
Batman,
remember that.
The Batman. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff. Anybody that's interested can look me up on the IMDb. It's easy to find.
Yes, I do remember that. Wait, did you work with my dad? Did he work on any of your shows?
I don't think he did. I don't think anything but that's so common. And when I was writing in the 90s, mostly in the 90s and the 2000s, there were literally hundreds of cartoons being made. And so it would be very easy to write and write and write and never see a specific actor ever.
Right, that's true. Yeah. Right. I do remember that now. That's amazing that you've written for so much animation.
Well, so I ask only because we're going to talk about what you do as an actress when you're working on voiceover work. How do you, when you receive a script, what do you do first? How do you figure out a character?
Usually if some kind of a artwork is helpful, but I think I kind of, again, just go off an instinct of what I feel in the moment. But I feel like there's not a ton of process. I feel like I kind of am like, oh yeah, I feel like this is what this creature sounds like. And the voice just kind of comes from that place.
Well, they cast you because of your voice. That's obvious. And so there's some quality to what you're bringing to that, that moment, that character that they hired you for. But so I guess what I'm asking is, when you get a script and you sit down and break it down, is it the same for you when you're working on voiceover work as when you're working on a primetime TV show? Is it the same process for you as an actress?
I mean, it's a little different because, with voiceover, I don't have to be off book, which is great.
It is great.
Read it off the page. So that's good. But I think, I do always, especially when I'm working on a new show, it's like, I do like to come in prepared and have an idea. Like, usually what I'll do is, if it's a new character on a show, if I auditioned for it, I'll listen to my audition and get familiar with that and go, okay, well, that's what they're expecting to show up in the booth. But what's great about voiceover is, because you don't have to be memorized, and it's just I find like you don't get the same kind of like anxiety of like showing up on set and there's like big things moving around and you get over there and you don't feel that same pressure. So I feel a little more free sometimes when I'm in the booth to just kind of like play and have fun. And some shows love it when you improvise, and yeah, it's really just about enjoying yourself and having a good time.
Are you still going into a studio to do that work, or are they having you do much of it at home?
So during the pandemic, I did record from home, and I do have an at-home, like, broadcast quality booth. But now I go back in the studio. I personally don't enjoy recording from home. It gives me too much anxiety to have to be like the engineer and then make sure my neighbors don't flush the toilet. And, I mean, already, my dog barked a second ago and like it's nerve wracking to do all that stuff on your own. And I really admire engineers and what they do. So I would much prefer going into the studio.
Do you find that, are you in a studio now today with lots of other actors, or is it always just you alone?
It really depends on the show. Some shows do group recordings. I find since the pandemic, they are less and less, and there's pros and cons to group recordings. I think it's fun to interact with other actors, obviously, but then, it takes longer or harder to schedule. And so there is something nice about when I know I'm going in on my own, and like, if I have to move the session for some reason, it's not going to affect 5 other people in the room with you. So I do enjoy like going in solo too. And
So most people know, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, which is that acting is usually about reacting. And so how are you able to then imagine, I guess, how you're reacting to some other character's performance that's not there? Nobody's there, it's just you.
it's hard. So some shows, sometimes you have a great director. Like I worked with voice director Maria Estrada for many years on Goldie and Bear. Do you know Maria?
Yeah, I went to school with Maria at USC.
Oh my God, of course you did.
And Kelly Ward, who's been on this show, who's also a voice director.
Yes, I know Kelly Ward too. So I worked with Maria for a long time, and she was a performer, and she's amazing to work with because she feeds you the line, and she like is acting with you. Like she doesn't just, she'll like read you in, and she performs with you. So it's really fun when you get to work with her.
That's helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. And it's fun. She's so much fun, and she's so good at what she does.
Well, I'm sure she does know what she wants. I mean, that's what makes a great voice director, or any director really, when they know what they want. Also, I assume that she also lets you have free reign sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Like I love when I get to work with her because, she really loves actors, and she appreciates them, and she lets you, bring your own unique quality to it, and then also is really good at guiding you in the way that she wants the performance to be. And then sometimes you're lucky, like sometimes an actor has recorded before I recorded, so sometimes I get to hear their performance, and so they play the line and read me in that way.
Do you find that to be even more helpful than just having Maria or someone else read lines to you?
It really depends. I think it's fun when you get to read with someone. I think it's because there's that just natural live energy to it. But it's also fun when you get to hear someone else's performance and react from that place of hearing it for the first time. That it affects how you deliver a line for sure.
So, as you say, in a voiceover work, you don't need to memorize the lines. If you're going to go do a live action show somewhere, and you do have to memorize lines, is that a much longer prep for you? I would assume it is.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what it is. Actually, this last year I shot an independent pilot, and it was the first time I was the lead of a show, and it was really cool. And Jason Alexander was in it, and David Paymer. So it was really fun to work those guys. And that one was like kind of the first time where I was like, oh, I really have to. I mean, I've done obviously plays and things where I've been leads and things like that, but you have a whole rehearsal process. With TV, you just don't. So my prep for that was, very specific because I wanted to make sure that I understood the entire arc of the story independent of what I was doing, so that when we were shooting out of order, I knew emotionally where my character was at that point in time. Just like when you're rehearsing a play and they're like, can you pick it up from this line? It's like you've rehearsed it enough, like, okay, what happened before and what's coming. But with TV or film, it's kind of hard to keep track of that because you don't get that.
Well, that for sure. And if you're having to do everything out of sequence, out of order, which is the way most shows are shot, um, as opposed to a sitcom where you might be on a stage and you're going from the beginning to the end of the script, but on a single camera show that's, not a sitcom, or could be comedy, but not necessarily a sitcom, you're going to be out of order a lot, out of sequence. And I think that's probably what makes the great film actors great, is that they are able to do this thing without having this continuity that you would have as a stage actor, where you're going from the beginning of the show to the end. Do you have any particular technique for being in continuity when you're out of continuity?
Well, I kind of made it up for myself when I did this.
Okay, so what is that?
I mean, I don't know if it worked. We should watch the pilot. Well, for that one in particular, I remember I had the whole script printed out and I had it all organized. It was in order, but I had tabs of like what scenes we're shooting what day. So I knew like, okay, well, here's my Thursday day and this is what I'm shooting. And so then I could remind myself, like before we shot a scene, I'm like, great. Oh, right. That's what happens right before. And I'm coming from that and I'm going into this. And so it's kind of like just a little bit of paperwork, homework, and then your own memorization process.
You're sitting there and I assume calculating some kind of, what is your goal in the scene? What do you need to do before anybody's directed you or blocked you? You sort of have to have some concept of it, right?
Yeah, you definitely, I think having a want in every scene you go into makes for, even if it's really simple, it does make a difference and makes it more dynamic, I think, makes for a more dynamic performance. And then the goal is that you kind of know those things and you don't have to, pound them into your brain anymore. It's like you already know what you want because you've done the work. You want to like do the work before so you can show up and do the work. You know what I mean? Because
yeah, of course.
You don't want to be like working on set while you're there. You just want to be in a place where it's just like it effortlessly comes out of you. And it's so much more fun.
No doubt. You don't want to be figuring that out while you're standing on set.
Right.
Do you ever get frustrated by scripts where it's not clear in the script and you have to figure it out?
Definitely. I mean, I've definitely done things where, you're like, the writing is, not the strongest, and you kind of have to make things work that don't work and justify for yourself. Like, okay, well, this must have been left over from an old draft because it makes zero sense, but I'm just going to choose that this is why I'm saying X, Y, and Z.
What happens if you get to the set that day and that's not right? How do you adjust?
I mean, you just hope that the director cares enough to give you the adjustment. And then that's the other thing is you can't be attached to anything you planned because you don't know what they want at the end of the day. And you have to just be open to what they're looking for, even if you don't agree with it.
What happens if you really don't agree with it? Like you're certain they're not right. Have you ever had that discussion or argument with a director?
No, I am not that ballsy. I don't know what the word would be. No, I am very much, I show up, I do my job, and I leave, and I'm very proud of that. And I try to be as easy as I possibly can be. I have spoken up at times where I'm like, oh, I don't know if you need me to run barefoot in the woods because you can't see my feet. You know what I mean? I have had that conversation.
Well, now you're talking about protecting your physical body from harm.
That's the only
right?
time.
That's the only time. Otherwise, you're a trooper. You're a pro. You're going to come in and do what they're asking you to do within reason. I mean, if they say jump off this cliff with no safety harness, you're not doing that. But within reason, you're going to do what they are asking you to do, which is what a pro does, right?
Yeah, and part of my job is to trust that they know what they're doing. And even when I might go, do they know what they're doing? It's like I kind of have to just say, well, I hope it turns out in post. I hope they can fix it in post.
Yeah, sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. It just depends. But yeah, it's the director's job to have that oversight, to see, to have the vision for the whole. And you as an actress, you may not have that whole vision. Sometimes you will, but sometimes you won't. And so, yeah, I guess it's good for you to be able to adjust to whatever it is they're asking you to do.
Yeah, and I've seen on sets, I've been on a few sets where you can tell that the lead actors don't trust the director, and it really, unfortunately, like creates a lot of problems because then nobody starts to trust the person in charge, and it then becomes like survival mode, and everyone's like thinking of ideas and trying to fix things, and it gets sort of out of control. And I think, if you're like the number one, like part of your job is to like, be the leader and lead by example and be like, okay, we're gonna go on this journey together, and we're gonna trust this person and respect them, and hopefully, we all come out looking great. But yeah, I've definitely seen it where they've turned.
Well, and sometimes once a director has lost that trust from everyone, they're in trouble.
Yeah, they just can't get it back.
Can't get it back because once it's gone, it's very hard to re-get it. So obviously you have to go through various audition processes. You're not, nobody's calling you every day and saying, hey, you're cast in this. You have to go show somebody your stuff, right?
Not yet. Every day.
Keep working. You'll get there. What is your technique? What is your thinking about the way to audition? How do you audition? How do you think about auditions?
I mean, it depends on what it is. I think sometimes time is really what is the main deciding factor on how I think about an audition and how much time I have to put into it, depending on also my interest in it. It's really hard for me to tape things that I like think the material is not great, and I probably should turn those down, but we're not there yet.
A gig is a gig.
Yeah, I'm like, well, like you never know what will come out of it. But I have, like I mentioned before, this acting class that I take with on and off with G. Charles Wright. It is an audition technique class that is on Zoom. It's all about self-taping. It's all auditions. It's kind of like going to the gym and working out. And I think that's kind of half the battle with the self-tape in particular is you kind of have to just learn to have the muscle of how to do it and do it efficiently, not drive yourself insane, learn how to let it go and move on. It's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Are you at the point now where it's just part of the job? Does it still nerve-wrack you to do it?
No, not anymore. I mean, now mostly everything is on tape, which I really like because I can do it on my own time. I can do it if I'm traveling. Like, it gives me a lot of freedom, which I like. So I don't get nervous when I'm self-taping. But, in the strikes, us actors fought for the option to do a Zoom audition with casting. And I've gotten Zoom auditions with casting, and that is really fantastic. And I really enjoy that because you get that one-on-one interaction, but, you can do it from the comfort of your own home.
So let's explain that for the listeners. As opposed to you putting yourself on tape and submitting a tape that you've created where you're not having an interaction with a casting director, you're actually on Zoom with someone and you're actually talking back and forth with a casting director.
Exactly.
Sort of like being in the room without being in the room.
Exactly. And it's great because, it's like you can wear comfortable shoes. You don't have to worry about parking. If you have nervous diarrhea right before, you can go to your own toilet. It's great. Like when I did a guest star on Grey's Anatomy in 2024, and that one I did a Zoom audition with the casting director. And while I was in the audition, I mean, they were like, "This is your part." I mean, they were like, you're like so perfect for this, and I still knew when I left going, you never know. They don't really make the full decision, but it was so wonderful to get that feedback in real time and be like, oh, and they gave me a small adjustment. I was able to take the adjustment. And so that's really cool is you get the feedback And then you also, but you don't have to drive.
Well, because if you're submitting a tape, you really don't know whether they're looking at it or not.
No, it's like a fart in a vacuum. That's what I call it.
Wow. I have to stay away from your vacuum.
Or thank me, Okay.
Or thank you. Thank you for cleaning this up. I do appreciate that. Well, I've been having just the most fun conversation with Natalie Lander, and we're going to wind the show down just a little bit. And just wondering, you've shared these amazing experiences with us, and I'm just wondering, is there a story you can share with us that's either weird, quirky, offbeat, strange, or maybe just plain funny?
Okay, so yes, I have a story. Okay, so I think it was 2012-ish, there was a show on Fox called Touch with Kiefer Sutherland. And it was, I don't even really know what it was about. I think it was about like a boy who had psychic predictions or something like that, or could see into murders. I don't know, something weird. And so I booked a role on that show, and it was a little 3-line part, and the name of the role was College Girl. Okay, great. But it turned out that in the episode, the guest lead of the episode, the character's name was Natalie. And she was also, a young college type girl. So, of course, I show up on set. Oh, and my scene is like, I'm a fan of this Natalie girl. She's some blogger or something. And so my lines are something like, oh my God, Natalie, I'm such a huge fan, whatever it is. But it was also really awkward because I'm a small little kind of nothing role. This other actress is playing Natalie. So anytime they were like, Natalie, we both be like, yes. And it was kind of uncomfortable. And the director was like, okay, for today. And she was like, you, meaning me. She was like, you are Natalie and you are whatever her name was. So it was so that we knew she's not going to call me College Girl because that would be kind of rude. So anyway, so I was feeling a little down on myself, and also why didn't I audition for the guest star named Natalie? You know what I mean? I didn't really understand. I didn't even get to go in on that role, and that's sad to me. And so I was a little feeling a little glum. So I was sitting in my little chair waiting for the next setup, and down the hallway we're shooting in this beautiful Art Deco hotel in Culver City, the historic hotel, and I see Kiefer Sutherland, and he's walking, and he's making a beeline straight for me. And I'm the only one there. And I'm what's going on? And he goes, hey. I go, hey. He goes, sorry, are you Natalie? And I go, yeah, I am. He's like, oh my God. I just want to say I'm Kiefer. It's so nice to meet you. I heard you're doing an amazing job. And I'm like, oh my God. Thank you. That's so nice of you. He's like, yeah. And I heard that yesterday was incredible and you just really were so wonderful and emotional. And he goes on. And I realized oh no. He thinks they're talking about the girl playing Natalie. And so then I stopped him and I go, oh, I'm so sorry. I think I got confused. I think you're looking for the actress who's playing Natalie. My real name is Natalie, and I'm playing College Girl. And he goes, oh, sorry. And then literally ran off. Oh. And I was like, anyway.
But you were, but you were and you remain Natalie.
I'm still the only Natalie. But yeah, oh my God, I'll never forget. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is it. This is the moment that actors talk about. I was 3 lines. I see myself on Jimmy Fallon and be like, I was 3 lines on Touch playing College Girl. And I was so incredible that they spun my character off. And now I'm a series regular and I'm nominated for an Emmy. And because Kiefer Sutherland heard about me. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no.
And that, folks, is show business.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. Oh, my goodness. That's very funny. All right. So last question for you today, Nat. You've shared a gigantic amount of very interesting and useful information throughout this whole show, but I'm wondering if you have a single solid piece of advice or a tip that you like to give to anyone that says to you, well, how do you do this? How do you proceed in the business? How do you break in, et cetera, et cetera? What advice do you give people?
I think the biggest thing is not to compare and despair with other people, that we are all on our own specific paths and journeys, and that, one person's success doesn't take away from your success. It's an infinite pie, and I believe that everyone can eat, And I think having that mentality where you're able to celebrate and support people, especially actors or other artists in your community, it's really going to serve you, because I think a lot of times it's really easy to sort of fall into that pattern of negative thinking and going, oh, well, they got that and that was taken from me. And, I think overall, I noticed anytime I really make a mind shift switch, where if I see someone post something and I feel that feeling of oh, how did that not happen for me? I just remind myself, well, if it can happen for them, it can happen for me. And that means I'm that much closer because it did. And I really think that's important. I think that's the only way to really get through this is by having a mindset like that.
So that is terrifically valuable information. I think that anybody that's trying to be in the business in a performing role, for sure, although it's true for writing and directing and all the rest of it, I think that is a truly valuable piece of information, because you don't control it ultimately anyway, unless you wind up producing something on your own. And I had the great privilege of having Bryan Cranston on this show at a point of several years ago, and he very wisely said that he realized at some point in his relatively early journeyman's career, well before he became a celebrity, that he had to figure out that if he didn't get cast in a role, it wasn't his role. It was somebody else's role. And that's just the way he looked at it.
Exactly. The roles that are meant to be yours won't pass you by, and you kind of have to choose to believe that.
I think that's very wise advice. Natalie Lander, this has been so much fun for me. I can't thank you enough for your time, your energy, and your wisdom, and you've, as they say, grown up good. So I thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
We didn't even really talk about our song, but we'll do another interview.
And of course we will. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.
And now, as promised, for your listening pleasure, here is Natalie singing a song that I wrote with composer Rachel Lawrence. Here now is Nothing Gets Me Down.
I think the world is anything but clean.
And so we've come to the end of today's Story Beat. If you like this episode, won't you please take a moment to give us a comment, rating, or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great Story Beat episodes to you. Story Beat is available on all major podcast apps and platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and many others. Until next time, I'm Steve Cuden, and may all your stories be unforgettable.